I'm out here in Nakameguro, touching grass, enjoying Hanami, and I'm playing RuneScape. I have my phone hooked up to my PC at home, all the way on the other side of town, and every step I take that's detected by the phone's built-in pedometer gets sent back as a click, with my character casting the high-level alchemy spell in-game, for hours on end as long as I keep moving, all in a way that's totally legal within the rules of the game. Let me explain. Old School RuneScape is an MMORPG for depressed people in their 30s that lets users play in a variety of different styles. You could be training the same skill in a really intense, focused way, or you could essentially be playing it like Cookie Clicker. Myself, I like to have it on my second monitor while I'm coding, clicking once every few minutes. That might net me less XP and rewards than the more involved ways I could be training my skills, but I can commit to it for a longer period of time that way, and eventually get to the same endpoint. In a famously grindy game, this has led to people coming up with inventive ways to play while they're doing other stuff. People use foot pedals to click. I've even seen clips posted on the official subreddit where people have positioned their mouse in just the right position underneath, say, an elliptical machine, so that it clicks for them with each movement, which is perfect for a small number of skills where if you set up your inventory and position your cursor just right, you can click in exactly the same spot over and over in order to level up. Now, I've seen things like this posted online every now and then over the probably 20 years that I've played the game, and I decided that with the skills on my current account getting into the higher, more mercilessly grindy levels, I wanted in. Unfortunately, I have a small apartment and can't really just take my laptop to the gym and start MacGyvering my mouse up to the smith machine, so I had to look for a solution elsewhere. My first thought was to somehow attach a physical switch to my shoes, using a microcontroller as a mouse to click on the mobile version of the game. But then I realised that I could cut out a few steps here and simplify things. I use this app here that's like a loyalty card for vending machines, and it has this feature, I guess to pretend that they're doing something good for people's health, where if you hit a target number of steps in a week, they'll give you a free stamp on your loyalty card, which you can eventually exchange for a free drink. And when I was using this one day, it all very suddenly clicked together for me. If I treat my phone detecting a step like any other action, say a button press or a mouse click, I can use that to do whatever I want. So I got to work writing a really simple Python server that when it gets sent a message does one left mouse click in exactly the position that the mouse was left at. I've got to say, I do most of my work in game engines where there's this layer of abstraction and like engine-specific functions that you're using, so to just be writing something in plain old boring code was like a breath of fresh air. Less so when I got to working in Android Studio where you're wrangling platform-specific stuff, but I managed to get a little app together where I could type in my home IP address, connect to the Python server that I'd made, and press a button which would send a message to my laptop, which would do exactly one click. I guess it's kind of like using a remote desktop app, only without the display or the keyboard in front of you. So with that working pretty smoothly, it was time to swap out that mouse click button on the app with some proper step detection. Now, Android gives us two ways to access the built-in step sensor: step counter and step detector. I didn't know this, so went with step counter at first, which sounds like it does the right thing, it counts steps, right? But what it actually does is give you the total number of steps counted since the device first powered on. Maybe good if you're tracking steps over a long period of time for like a health app. but I wanted to know every single time I took a step, which means that we actually wanted to use step detector here. So I wired that up using the same functions that I'd just used with the send click button, and then spent the rest of the day walking back and forth in my apartment, really excited to see the numbers going up. With it all working, the next step was to make it so that the app could run in the background, meaning that I could lock my phone, reply to a text, whatever, and it would keep counting steps. In my head, I thought that this would just mean using wake lock to stop the app getting put to sleep as like a battery saver thing, but it turned out that I actually needed to use something called a foreground service to keep it sending steps in the background. You'll know when you have one of these running because you get one of those persistent notification things to tell you that it's doing stuff, which is perfect for me because that's exactly what I wanted anyway. So I took the path of least resistance and just moved all of my server communication code into the foreground service script, and then binded it to the main activity so that I'd still be able to link things up with the UI. After a lot of messing around, I was really struggling to get this to work. It seemed to just stop after a few seconds. But that's when I decided to check it in the app battery settings, and yeah, all good now. So it finally felt like it was time to take it for a test drive in RuneScape for real. I forwarded the port on my network so that I could access it from an external IP, and then set out for a walk down by the river. I tried to time this for about an hour, and when I got back I was kinda surprised to see that there had been no issues whatsoever. The app had ran as expected, losing some steps on the way to maybe network or concurrency issues, but it looked like I was pulling around 60,000 XP an hour. There's a limit to how many casts of the spell you can do in an hour, but taking it easy, stopping every now and then to take in the scenery or have a break, it seemed like I wasn't all that far off anyway. Probably pretty similar to what I would have gotten if I'd been doing it at my PC, spamming the mouse button. This test was a huge success, but I didn't quite feel ready to put it to use on any longer walks yet, because I had this worry that what if something happens to my PC when I'm not there? What if there's an update to RuneScape, or I'm randomly logged out? Sure, I could use a remote desktop app to check in, but I don't really want to be doing that every 5 minutes, or worse, walking around clicking blank space on the login screen. My first idea to fix this was to try and look at the window title for RuneScape, and see if that changes when you're logged in. And with RuneLite it does actually. However, once you've done that first login, it just stays the same, and the official client never changes at all. One thing I noticed when I was logging in and out though, is that even if you're playing in a full screen with the newer resizable window, the login screen always has its background set to this fixed size, with chunky black borders around the edges. So what if every 10 seconds or so, I was to look about halfway down the screen on the left hand side, and check to see if an 8x8 square of pixels were coloured entirely black. Then it would be really easy to see if I'd been logged out, send a message back to my phone which could then warn me with a notification. Problem solved. And looks aside, the app now had everything I needed to use it. When I started out, my magic level was 90, and I had about 10 million to spend on high alch supplies. I chose EU longbows. They wouldn't make me the most money, but they're always readily available to buy without putting too much thought into it. Obviously, the thought of getting to 99 was always on my mind, but that would be a lot of walking. So for now, I stuck to the still pretty lofty goal of reaching 94 magic, which would unlock the Ice Barrage spell, a big upgrade for my account. Getting there worked out to about 40 hours of walking. So, I just started walking all over Tokyo. So I know what people are going to say. This has to be against the rules. You're not at your PC, you don't have your hands on the mouse, there's software involved and that scares me. Why is this any different to botting? Well, remember before when I talked about people using foot pedals and stuff? This has been discussed before, and what Jagex, the creators of the game, have said is that, as a rule of thumb, one human input must equal one action in the game. What this means is that you can't have a button that, say, runs an auto hotkey script that moves your mouse to a certain position and then clicks all in one press. Remapping is fine, but no shortcuts. And that's a trap that I almost fell into. Early on, I wanted to have a crosshair I could place that would ensure the mouse click would always happen in that exact spot. But that would be moving the mouse and clicking. 2 actions for 1 human input. So I just stuck to having faith in where I'd left the cursor. We're good there. Okay, well, you're not really clicking if you're moving your legs, are you? How about before with the elliptical? That was fine. And it's not just a one-off. Plenty of people have interacted with the game in that way. There's someone on YouTube who stuck buttons to their body so that they would be able to interact with the game when they rolled over in bed at night in their sleep. And not only that, they had friends at Jagex add settings options to the game to make this easier for them. Using remote desktop apps to play is fine. So, as far as I can see, everything I'm doing here is just analog to using a remote desktop alongside a novel input. I have thousands of real-life hours in this game on this account alone. If I was willing to risk that by botting, there would be way more efficient ways of doing that. That said, with the irregular timing of steps and stopping for breaks and stuff, I don't think that this should trigger any automated anti-botting stuff. No more than using mouse keys would, at least. But we'll see if Jagex has anything to say when I post this, I suppose. I eventually got around to making everything look just a little nicer, which honestly was more of a pain than I expected. Why getting an image and text on a button is so hard on both Python and Android, I have no idea. But I got together this GUI for the server which displays some info and helps you get connected using tkinter, and threw together something similar for the client app. And you know, if you're gonna infringe on one copyright, you might as well infringe on them all. I wanted to finish up my level 94 by walking the entire length of the Yamanote line, a 42-kilometer loop through the heart of Tokyo. Something that I never would have thought myself able to do at the start of all of this. But with 500,000 XP left to go, I put my body on the line to see this thing through. And I'm pleased to say that after 12 grueling hours of walking, I got there, tallying up almost 600,000 XP over that marathon walk. In total, I gained around 2.5 million XP and 6.5 million GP just by walking over a couple of weeks. And if anyone's curious, I did actually lose a couple of pounds doing this. Nothing crazy, but I was pretty lanky to begin with, and my legs are looking much more chunky now too. So where does all that leave us? Assuming no ban, I will get a level 99 doing this. Just maybe doing an hour here and there and not 12-hour days. I also am going to put this up for download on itch, with the understanding that this project had a lot of firsts for me, and the code that I strung together from Google searches is pretty jank. You'll be able to see that for yourselves, in fact, because I know that when accounts with thousands of hours are on the line, people aren't going to want to take any chances with what they leave running on their PC. So the source code will be going up too. Please do take a look at it. I'm sure the community will even be able to make improvements. I really would love to see people using this to get away from the desks and take in some sun. Or hell, I used to work in warehouses, shop floors, I was a delivery driver for a bit. If I had this then, I'd have easily been paying for a bond with just how much I was moving. Maybe that's going to be one of you. But with that, I think the project speaks for itself. So, have fun everyone, and I'll catch you all next time.